Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Moneyball Method Podcast. This is Mark Shupe, the author of the Moneyball Method, a Middle-Class Manifesto for objective investing. And if you've tuned into previous podcasts, you can see that I am now recording from a different location in central Kentucky. I hope you enjoy the scenery. Last week, I talked about physical fitness and financial fitness. First of all, each of us has the ability to transform ourselves. Physically, that begins with a fat-burning metabolism and a lower body fat percentage. Financially, that begins with a cash flow strategy and a high confidence for success. But first, we must define our goals and commit to the activity. And that activity must be the guide for our progress toward those goals. Naturally, activity must be measured with reliable information. And physically, that is the heart rate monitor for staying in your aerobic energy zone. Financially, that is the random simulations of all potential outcomes for your cash flow and investment strategy. But in both cases, I've discovered people refuse to do this. Why? That brings me to our previous podcast about intellectual shrinkage and economic extraction. As you may recall, intellectual shrinkage is the decline in your ability to think in abstract concepts. In fact, the less you know, the less you will value and the less you will feel. In another sense, to be is to be something. Without knowledge, you are cheating your character. And ultimately, your capacity for happiness is reduced. And to recognize everything that is good entails awareness. Yet America's education standards have devolved into a mechanism for producing sheep. Many graduates would rather change the world with social activism or government jobs, and as a result, administration and compliance with hundreds of regulatory bureaucracies have created the invisible economy for extracting wealth from the private sector. But what are the physical and financial effects of this? What is the evidence? What is the proof? Again, we are objective. Let's begin with the Ozempic-Wegovy craze. In an interview with CNBC and published on August 5th, Bank of America's CEO Brian Moynihan said the company is spending more than $250 million annually to provide GLP-1 weight loss medications to its workforce. That is 13% of their $2 billion medical benefits budget, one that is already out of control because of government regulation. Yet this does not improve anyone's body fat burning metabolism. This does not improve anyone's lean muscle content. And to quote the CNBC interview, Moynihan acknowledged that some employees may leave Bank of America before the company realizes the long-term savings from improved health, but said the decision ultimately reflects a push to provide valuable benefits. In other words, he really doesn't care. It's about conformity to social pressure. However, that is capital that could have been invested efficiently. Again, the extraction economy. That is capital being confiscated from investors and from customers. And that is not a valuable benefit. This does not address the cause of people becoming chronically overweight. In fact, the cause of the problem is philosophical. In a society that teaches everyone that nothing is certain, no one is perfect, just be kind, anything goes. No one is responsible for their circumstances. In a society that teaches everyone they are the product of their genetics and a product of their culture, anything goes. No one is responsible for their circumstances. This is determinism, which is the insidious idea that we do not have free will, that we are not in control of our decisions and our habits. It also means that we are little more than herd animals that need the help of credentialed experts in government to fix our stupid behavior. And that is precisely the goal of progressive government. However, there are also highly competent and productive people with a similar problem. According to retired NASA rocket scientist Maureen Zappala, it is called the imposter syndrome. What is the imposter syndrome? Maureen gives us some examples. It is refusing to believe that you are qualified. It is refusing to start a challenge without 100% guarantee of success. It is refusing to start a challenge without 100% elimination of risks. It is refusing to try something new because you fear it will change you, or your relationships, or your reputation, or your comfort zone. You've heard me talk about the comfort zone before. It's important. Refusing to sit with the reality that there's a chance you really don't know everything, but no one does, ever. It is refusing to believe your skills and abilities are unique and valuable. What Maureen is describing is exactly my experience with people who refuse to define their goals and aspirations. This describes some people who are both highly competent and people who are motivated to do nothing. Which brings me to value-driven investing, also known as objective investing. It is difficult for people to think out loud in terms of their value domains. Those are things like family and relationships, or business and career, or health and fitness, or wealth building. Furthermore, it is difficult for people to think out loud in terms of their values inventory, the subsets of their values domain, such as household maintenance requirements, children's education needs, the arts and entertainment, travel and vacations, club memberships, retirement spending goals, medical and long-term care planning, as well as career changes. However, it is even more difficult to think out loud about the money and timing for all of these. What are the ideal levels of spending and timing? What are the minimum acceptable goals? What would happen if there were extreme market conditions that wreck your plans? With the objective investing discipline, we can answer all of those questions, but people are reticent to getting started. To summarize, whether it is physical fitness or financial fitness, sometimes it is best to have a coach or an accountability partner. In my career, in both physical fitness and financial fitness, I have been both. A coach knows how important it is to be coached. Today, I have coaches. And if you have listened to my podcast, then you realize that I could use a good coach for public speaking. And I am working one. I'm working with a speaking coach who has never heard of the Moneyball Method. She is a professional speaker. She is a Toastmasters champion. And recently we were running through the script for a presentation I was planning regarding objective investing, regarding the Moneyball Method. And during the middle of the talk, during the middle of the script, she stopped and she said to me, and I quote, "Oh, he wants to hear about me. I've got a voice in this whole thing. What do you mean, what do I enjoy doing? Oh my gosh, you're speaking my language." This caught me off guard in a good way. And it's funny because I realized that all of my own personal financial planning is driven by this, 100%. The introspection part. What lifestyle am I trying to create? What are my goals? What do I love to do? You know, I'm not striving just to strive and collect money. I want to build a lifestyle, not a gold mine. Yet we are in a culture of peer pressure. It's counterculture to say, no, I think I have enough money. Instead of, I've got to make more, to earn more, to do more. I've got to buy more. I've got to get more contracts. It's all about the hustle and grind, and I'm not like that. I have a revenue goal, and when I hit it, I'm good. I'm done. If I go over the revenue, God bless America. That's where I need to live and be happy, and I am very satisfied. That was unexpected. That is a direct quote. That is hard evidence. That is objective investing from someone who lives it and who gets it. And I hope one day you will get it and tune into my podcast next week while I will continue this conversation with you. Thank you for joining me and have a wonderful week.